Welcome to Just Cook It Radio, where delicious recipes and real cooking lead to amazing dishes. We cook, you listen. It works. With your hosts, Chef Mario Pareca and Bill Alexander.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You are listening to Just Cook It on your local station, 590 Radio, WMBS, and also on FCTV, channel 77, and at justcookit.tv. I am Mario Pareca here with Bill Alexander and Mike Sackley across the desk.
Hey, we're going high-tech this week.
I know. We have an extra camera here.
We have another camera, and now it's just on the pot where you're cooking. So now not only can you hear us, see us, but now you can actually see what's happening.
You can see what's cooking.
Hey, there you go.
See what's there? You go. I have an observation really quickly before we get the show started, and Mike just made a perfect
groan.
Yeah. Do you notice now, for those of you listening to the podcast version of the show, those of you listening on WMBS know what I'm talking about already. Those of you listening to the podcast, before we go on the air, Mike Sackley does the news.
Right.
And he does it. He's so professional sounding. Yeah. He uses his broadcaster voice. And then as soon as our intro music plays, it's like he changes into a completely different person. It's the many sides of Mike Sackley.
Total 180. I turn into what I more act like when I'm with you guys.
You mean
normal Mike, yeah.
Normal Mike. So this is the real Mike.
This is me, yes.
This isn't radio Mike.
Yeah.
That's fun, though.
There's no facade here. It's just it's all me.
So who said it was supposed to snow? I mean,
Joe DiNardo.
Joe's retired now.
Yeah, I know.
I read a really nice article about him a few weeks ago.
I saw that.
Tribune Review.
But yeah, some lovely weather we're having, and thank goodness it's a National Soup Month.
Yes.
Because it's perfect soup weather.
Yeah.
And we had a request for a soup this week.
You want to say who requested it?
Go ahead, Bill.
No, you go ahead.
Again, those of you listening on WMBS know who I'm talking about. Those of you listening on the podcast version.
You need to figure out who he is.
Right.
Yeah.
The show immediately following us is a sports talk show, and the host is George Von Benko. And George came into the studio last week as we were cleaning up after we cooked and requested stuffed pepper soup.
Right.
So,
and for those of you that listen to the podcast, George is doing he's doing play-by-play for Pitt women basketball.
Yep.
So he's not only in the local area, he's not only in Fayette County, not Fayette. He's in Fayette County. Sorry, I had to get that out there. Now it's off my chest.
Now you talk a southern accent the rest of the program.
No, we won the war. I came down here from north of Pittsburgh, and everybody, when I moved in 26 years ago, they started talking with southern accent. I'm going, what's the problem? The Mason-Dickinson line's still south of here.
Yeah.
We won the war. But anyhow, George is the play-by-play announcer for Pitt women's basketball. So
yeah, and he requested stuffed pepper soup, so here we have it. We're going to do stuffed pepper soup, and I mention that because he's not the only one that's allowed to make requests.
Yes, that's true.
If you call us, and I'm going to throw the numbers out because the lines are open throughout our entire program, you can make requests. You can tell us about your recipes, join the conversation, whatever you want to talk about, and you don't have to be a professional radio voice like Mike Sackley before the program either. You can be like regular Mike Sackley during our program.
Now, one thing I just realized is I got the broccoli cheddar soup, which was excellent, by the way. My wife loved it.
Thank you.
And now George got the pepper soup.
Yes.
What's Mike requesting next week?
We're going to do another soup because we're going to round out the month.
Which is hard to believe. We're almost towards the end of January here. Time flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely. And Mike's he's thinking really hard if you saw his face right now.
You don't have to think about it right now. You can give us...
So let me call out the numbers, and we're going to start cooking. If you want to call us from the local area, 724-438-4593. Again, 724-438-4593 in the local area. And if you want to call us from outside the area, if maybe you're listening online, 855-590-0590. Again, 855-590-0590 is toll free. And so let's get this soup rolling here, Bill, and then we'll talk a little more.
Rolling, boil.
Rolling, yeah.
There you go.
We need some sound effects.
No.
So I have a pot here, a soup pot, a large soup pot, and I put about 2 tablespoons of olive oil.
Okay.
And so we're going to get that warm. And then I have in this bowl some diced onion, now just like a rough medium dice, and some peppers. You can put them all in at once if you want to expedite the process. I know in the recipe, which is posted at justcookit.net, so if you go there, you can get the recipe for the soup. Right now it says to start with the onions and garlic and then add the peppers. You can do it that way, or you can just add it all in at once. Whatever you want. So we're just going to dump them all in right now at once. So we got yellow bell peppers, red bell peppers, and we're going to add about 2 teaspoons of minced garlic to this as well. And again, building that flavor foundation that we spoke about the past couple of weeks whenever you're making a soup. And this is actually a fairly simple soup, and it's really, really delicious. So it's like, I know when I was younger, my mother used to make stuffed peppers. It was one of my favorite meals. And she would take generally green bell peppers and make a mixture with beef and rice,
Right.
and stuff it into the pepper, and then put a tomato sauce over top
Right.
and cook it. There's so many different things you can stuff peppers with, but that's the traditional one I grew up on. So that's kind of the one that we're going to model the soup
Because
after.
my wife does with beef and rice, and she
Right.
puts it in there. Did you find your bay leaf?
I didn't. We had a rogue bay leaf, so I would normally have a bay leaf in here. As I was unpacking my goods
He's
today.
being honest, everybody.
Yeah, we had a rogue bay leaf. There must have been a gust of wind in the studio, and it just kind of blew off the desk, and I don't know where it went. So,
You
if
know,
anyone
it's-
wants to stop by and give us a bay
Bay
leaf,
leaf. Well, look here. I'll look through everything. No, I don't
no,
see
but
it.
so you'll add a bay leaf to this as well. And we're just gonna. What are we gonna do with this, Bill? What is this process?
We're sweating.
That's right. We're
Hey, I
sweating
remember.
this down. We're not going to get it. We don't want to get any color on it. We just want to sweat it down until the onions are translucent, and the peppers. They don't need to be cooked all the way through, but we want to get them to like an al dente type because
You-
they're going to cook in the broth.
You know,
as
we've
well.
sweated vegetables a lot the
Yeah.
first of the year. And every time I think of the word sweat, I think of Richard Simmons and sweating to the oldies. So I'm thinking next week I'm going to find some oldies music, and whenever we're sweating vegetables, it's going to play underneath.
Sweating to the oldies.
Yeah,
there you go. But so I used retina, and something that you pointed out, Bill, as you were saw my mise en place on the desk today before the show.
The mise en place.
The mise en place. That's right. That's all the ingredients. We're using red and yellow bell peppers.
Right.
I think they're a little sweeter. That's why I wanted to use them in the soup. And I wanted to make sure there's peppers in the actual soup, just in case you just eat a bowl of it. But we're going to serve ours inside of a green pepper.
Okay.
Because, like I said, when my mother made them, she generally made green peppers. Obviously, you can stuff red peppers, yellow peppers.
Right.
They even have purple peppers, white peppers,
they
and brown
really?
peppers.
I
Yeah,
didn't know
if you look for them. But interesting note, red peppers are the same pepper as the green pepper. They're just grow longer.
Oh, I didn't
They
realize
turn
that
red,
either.
Yeah.
So the
that's-
green is the young, and the red is the old.
Yes,
Okay.
and the red actually has more nutrients as it
gets
matures,
older.
it develops, and that's where the red color comes from.
See, to me, the red tastes a little bit more tender than the green do.
Right, red's a little
bit-
sweeter.
Right.
It's got a little better of a flavor, and if you notice when you go to the supermarket, generally red peppers are more expensive than green peppers.
I don't think I've ever paid attention
Yeah,
to that.
but not by much, but they are
They
generally
are.
a little more expensive, and that's why yellow peppers as well. Green peppers are generally the cheapest, and
Okay.
then when you go up the line to the different colors, they become a little more expensive because of the different flavors and the different ways
Oh,
they're
okay, that
grown
makes
and things.
sense. I mean,
But peppers were actually named by Christopher Columbus. Believe it
and
or
why do
not.
we know this?
They're called peppers. When he came over to America, he sent a bunch of seeds back to where he came from, and he wanted because peppercorns were really prized back then. So
Yes.
they wanted peppercorns. So they were hoping whatever would grow would have peppercorns for them to use. So
Okay.
they called them peppers
Just in case.
when they grew,
Yeah.
and this is what they came up with.
Interesting. Not
Yeah.
that I would have ever known that, but now you mentioned the green are mature, or the red are the mature green peppers. Where are the yellow peppers from? Are they the same type, same family?
Same
or?
family, absolutely. Yeah, they're all the same family. They're all peppers, and the funny thing is, peppers are if you look at them botanically, they're actually a fruit
Okay.
because of the way
The way
where
they
they're
grow.
grown and where the seeds are. But in culinary use and cooking terms, they're a vegetable,
Yeah.
much like the tomato.
Right. And I mean, there's a lot of people that will be specific and argue that point with you. And my point is, as long as you can eat it, why worry about it?
Yeah, it's not. It's all semantics, but
Tomato, potato.
botanically, it's a fruit. I call it a vegetable just
Exactly.
because that's the way I eat it. That's the way I see it.
Right.
Um,
Now,
so-
can you peel a pepper? I guess you could, right?
You can, yeah, you
Okay.
can peel a pepper. There's really not a huge reason to. I mean, it's more trouble than it's worth. But you know, peppers are great. When you cut them, you obviously want to take out. What I did when I cut mine, I take the top and bottom off, and then I take the sides off. Now you
Okay.
can do it all in one swipe, which we teach people to do when we use peppers in our cooking classes when we teach them at the Market District. But it takes a little more knife skills to be able to do such a thing like
Okay.
that. So you can actually lay it out and fillet it almost like, so think about filleting like a fish.
Yes.
And you can take the seeds out in one swipe, so you have one huge strip of pepper.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then you want to take the the ribs out, and then you can cut it. Now, when you're cutting peppers, here's the tip of the day for everyone. When you're cutting peppers, you always, like say you're dicing them or julienning them or whatever, you always want to cut them with the skin side down on the board.
And why is that?
Because your knife will go through the inside of the pepper much easier than the skin on the outside.
Because the skin will give you some resistance when you cut through, and it will not be as clear or
clean of a cut.
Thank you very
Right.
much. I knew it started with a C.
Not that there's a wax on the outside of the pepper, but the pepper skin is almost like it's smooth and almost like waxy.
And
so
most people that have, especially in this region, they've had peppers before, so they know what we're talking about.
One of the first, I would say probably the first or second week that I actually cooked professionally, I had to make our Italian dressing recipe had diced bell pepper in it.
Okay.
So I was obviously behind because I was new and I'm trying to learn and trying to keep up and everything. So we're getting ready to go to lunch and I'm trying to get all these peppers diced, and I of course wasn't doing it that way, and I nipped the tip of my finger off. Wasn't a pretty sight.
Yeah, trust me, I know what that's like.
Yeah, I actually got lightheaded. It was the first time I got cut bad, and after that I was okay. But yeah, it wasn't fun. So when you're cutting your peppers, be very careful. Cut them on the inside after you remove the ribs, and it's that simple. So for my pepper soup and for my stuffed peppers, we're going to use 3 different types of ground meat.
Okay.
And you saw that. What I have here, I have a pound of ground beef, okay, a half a pound of ground pork, and a half a pound of ground veal.
Okay.
Now, the beef is what it is. It's the most commonly used meat in a stuffed pepper. The pork adds a little fat for flavor, and not a ton because we're not using as much. And the veal is going to add a tenderness and more flavor to it. So I kind of like that mixture. It's almost the same mixture I use for meatballs and meatloaf.
Okay, I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah, I like that mixture. I think that ratio works really well for a lot of different recipes. So that's what we're going to use for this soup. Like you said, your wife generally used beef.
Right.
My mother generally just used all beef.
Right.
But I have poetic license.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's your recipe. You can do whatever you want. And speaking of that, let's go take our first break and come back.
Don't touch that radio dial. We will be back. We're going to continue cooking our stuffed pepper soup, and we'll talk more peppers and more soup and whatever you want to talk about. So the phone lines are open. And Just Cook It is served up to you today by the Big Barn Country Store in Delhi, by Preka Chiropractic Center, Inc., by 4th Street Barbecue, by the Herald Standard, and on FCTV by Phil Giannetti Motors.
And you're watching Just Cook It on Fayette TV Channel 77 and also at justcookit.tv. And you're listening to Just Cook It Radio on Stitcher, on Spreaker, on Blog, on a lot of different places, and on your local station, 590 Radio, WMBS. Phil Giannetti Motors at 656 National Pike East in Brownsville is a proud sponsor of programming on FCTV. Phil Giannetti Motors providing quality vehicles for 45 years. If you're looking for a quality pre-owned vehicle, give Phil Giannetti's a call at 724-785-6800 or stop by their website, philgiannettymotors.com.
Good to have you back. You're listening to Just Cook It on your local station, 590 Radio WMBS, and also on FCTV Channel 77, and at justcookit.tv. I am Mario Parecka here with Bill Alexander and Mike Sackley, and we're making stuffed pepper soup in the studio today.
Before we go any further, can I give a shout out to somebody? Which
Absolutely.
We don't do. One of my students, as of right now, has just got the national gig for Elmer's Glue as the spokesperson.
Awesome.
Chelsea
That's great.
Fudel. She just got that. It was announced yesterday that she is going to be the national spokesperson for Elmer's Glue, which is kind of cool coming out of this area that she's going to be doing that. So I just thought I'd give the shout out
Congrats.
to Chelsea and congratulations. And I had nothing to do with it, just to let you know.
Wait, see, that's the good thing. At least you're honest, because you could have said it was all me.
It had nothing to do with it.
Okay, so back to our soup. In our pot, we started with some olive oil. We have our red peppers, yellow peppers, onions, and garlic, which we've been sweating, and you can see that the onions are translucent. And now I'm going to add our different ground meats, all 3 of them. As you can see, I'm holding them up here for you, Bill.
Now, the question for you, and this is what I think is really interesting. You're basically what you're doing right now is you're browning the meat with the vegetables. Because I don't know why in my mind I thought you had to brown the meat first, but you're just doing everything together.
You can. I wanted to give the vegetables a head start because they take a little longer to cook, and you want to coax the flavor out of them, the aromatics, more or less. So it's all about that layering, the flavor layering. And what I'm going to also add to this now is I have some. You can use Italian seasoning if you like. If you use Italian seasoning, use a tablespoon, but as the recipe states, it's basil, oregano, thyme, 1 teaspoon of each.
And a bay leaf.
And the bay leaf was in there. Supposedly, the phantom bay leaf. And I'm also going to season this with a little sea salt at this point.
Okay.
Okay, just a pinch. And some fresh, cracked black pepper. And we're going to use black pepper today.
No white pepper this week.
Black pepper this week.
Why is that?
Soup. I just think with the different meats that are in there, and being that it's a soup of this nature with beef broth, beef's pretty assertive.
Right.
I think the black pepper and beef work really well together.
Hey, we got a caller on the line right now.
Great.
We have Mary. Let's go say hi to Mary.
Sounds good.
Mary, how are you doing this morning?
I'm fine. I just wanted to make a comment that when I was stationed in Camp Pendleton, California, I had family lived up in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And one day I was driving up there, and from the distance I saw these fields of produce, and it looked like a descending rainbow. You had your red, orange, yellow, green, like a purple. And I looked at this for miles and miles, and when we got close, I realized it was filled with peppers.
Oh, interesting.
Great. Did you stop and get some?
No, in fact, it's illegal. I think it's like $100 per piece of fruit fine. If you stop
If you just stop and
steal
take them.
something from the field.
Okay, but you couldn't. They weren't selling them. They were just growing them.
Correct. They were growing
okay.
them for sale.
Oh, okay.
Great.
That's really interesting. I would have never thought of that. What would be really cool to be able to see a photograph of that and see what that would look like so we can... But as you said, it was like a rainbow in a field.
Right, just the way they had them planted in the descending order.
Interesting.
Very cool. Well, thank you for the call, Mary. We appreciate it.
All right, have a good day.
Hey,
You too.
Before we let you go, any suggestions for next week's soup?
Go.
I heard, and I actually tasted it, it sounds very bizarre, sweet potato and jalapeno soup.
Okay.
Ooh, that
We can do
sounds
that.
good, actually.
Interesting.
Okay,
We'll
Mary.
keep that in mind. Thank you.
We'll
All right.
write that down.
All right.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks for the call. Thanks for listening.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
That does sound
That's
good.
interesting. Sweet potato and I've had sweet potato soup many times.
Okay.
Sweet potato and jalapeno is
Jalapeno.
a flavor. The flavor profiles would go. They would work together.
Oh, and it'd actually be a colorful soup.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you'd puree the jalapeno. Well, I guess you could,
could.
but I think I'd prefer like a nice
that
orange.
Just to let you know, when we went back, we didn't get to eat the soup on Saturday after the show. We ate it on Sunday for lunch.
The stuff you took home?
The broccoli cheddar that I was so kindly given last week. And the one flaw my wife had is she likes chunks of broccoli in her soup.
Yeah, some people say that. I mean, and you, like I said on the show last week, you can do that. You can save some florets and add them in.
And that's what she said. But other than
Yeah.
that, the taste, that was just amazing.
Thank you.
And even my son liked it too, which was really good.
Yeah, I wouldn't. If you want chunks of broccoli in your soup, I would add them
At the end.
because number one, they'll overcook
Yes.
in the soup, and number two, if you leave them in there, it'll kind of turn a funky color and they'll turn like army green. So
Sorry.
I would just.
Now this is where you should be playing the song "Funky Comadina" underneath.
There you
just
go.
To let you know, okay.
That is a classic.
It is a classic.
So
I don't think it's music of your life or nostalgia music, but I don't think it'd be played here.
Well, Mike Sackley plays a little bit of everything, from what I hear.
Everything.
Everything.
So we've got our beef, which is our beef, pork, and veal, which is browning right now. And you'll notice that some fat will render off of this.
Okay.
We're going to drain that fat off. You don't have to, but what happens is when you add your broth and your tomato, it all rises to the top, and you hit this film on the top of the soup, which you don't like. So what you would have to do at that point is skim that fat off. So instead of skimming, we'll just drain it.
Can I ask you a dumb question? This is one that I've never really been able to get an answer to because I've never asked the question before.
Okay.
How do you make broth? I mean, what is it? Water and the meat product that you're in and letting it boil? So
Well, there's a couple different technical differences between a broth and a stock.
that's the next question.
Stock is made with bones. Okay.
Okay.
You take either beef bones, chicken bones, whatever. You roast the bones to coax the flavor out of them.
Okay.
And then you use aromatics, your carrots, onions, celery, leeks, and you can deglaze with some white wine or red wine, depending if you're making beef or chicken or fish.
Okay.
And you add those to the pot after you start with your aromatics, bay leaf, peppercorns, obviously some fresh herbs. Then you add your bones. Then you cover it with water, and then you simmer, and then you can strain that off, and you have a stock. A broth is actually made with the meat attached to the bone.
Okay.
So if you're making a chicken broth, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll throw the whole chicken in the water.
Yeah.
So you'll, again, onions, carrots, celery, your aromatics, and then you can put your chicken in, or whatever, chicken breasts with bone-in breasts or thighs, or whatever. Thighs I wouldn't really recommend too much because they are a little fattier.
Right.
And you'll get a little bit of that more oil that you have to skim. But you can definitely use a whole chicken and cover it with water and simmer it. And generally, broth is salted, whereas stock isn't.
Now, because you have a store-bought broth here today.
Yeah.
You're telling me there's these pots all over this factory.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. They use giant kettles, which are generally steam powered. Now we had these in the restaurant because we made our own stocks, and so we would get beef bones in every week, and we would make gallons and gallons of stock, and we would get whole fowls, and we would take the chickens, and we would make our stock with them, and then we would take the chickens, break them down, cut the meat off, and make chicken salad with the meat.
Interesting.
So, and the bones that we would get in for the beef, we would roast, and then we'd have a whole full two-deck convection oven filled with bones that we would roast, and then we would take all our scraps, our carrot scraps, celery scraps, onion scraps, tomato scraps, and the beef bones, and make beef stock with those. And then if you want to take it further, another thing we did that a lot of restaurants don't do is we would use, first of all, we made all our own stock. So we had these huge 50-gallon pots that were, they're anchored in the floor and everything. They're big kettles, and you turn on the steam, and it brings steam through the sides, and it's all steam powered. But we'd also take those some of that stock and make demi-glace with it, which is just a really reduced, fortified stock that becomes a sauce. And that stuff is like liquid gold. When you make your own demi-glace, it's the labor it takes, the ingredient it takes, and the time it takes to cook it, it's very expensive, and it's like liquid gold.
That's why they call it demi-glace. They give it a special name.
A lot of places serve demi-glace, but a lot of places get the concentrated stuff. They'll buy it like almost in a base form, and then just add water and reconstitute it and make it. And you can always tell the difference in flavor.
I was going to ask you about that because there's a couple things with even stock in my refrigerator that you add water to stock, and also
like
broth.
bouillon cubes.
Yeah, but it's I forget the company it is because we have a friend of ours works in the restaurant industry.
I think one of the most popular is Miners. Is one of the most popular brands of bases. Now, the thing with bases, I'm not opposed to bases at all, but I'm opposed to using a base as a broth. If you're going to use like a chicken base or a lobster base or a beef base, I would like to use them as an enhancer.
Right, and that's the way it's used in the house.
More than the product itself.
Within the last few years, it's more about, I don't want to say before it was quick and convenient. Now you're going back to what is better for you, better taste. It may take a little bit longer, but it's good for you, and that's the whole idea.
So I'm draining this fat off.
and no, he is not. For those of you watching, he is not draining it on the floor.
No. There is a garbage can down here.
Mike's looking over the side going,
what is that?
Wait. I'm going to have to
mysterious drop-off.
If there's a puddle that runs under your...
You mean I'm going to have to clean?
I'm leaving at noon, guys.
Okay, so...
Well, whenever it gets cold, it will firm up, and you can just get a knife and scrape it off the rug. Don't worry about it.
So I use one of these... The furnace goes down. So I use one of these little strainer things here that you can see. I'll show the camera there.
Yeah.
Okay? And that just helps me strain the fat off.
That was classic.
And then I'm going to add some tomato juice, okay? About a cup here.
To get the full effect, we're going to have to get like 8 cameras in this room so you can actually see what's happening.
Well, a stove would be nice too, and an oven. Anyway, we make do with what we have. We're very resourceful. We call us MacGyver.
Yeah, there we go.
So now I'm going to open these. I have 2 cans of stewed tomatoes.
No, are they organic?
They are not.
Your mother?
Tell my mother.
I was going to say, is she listening this morning? Is that why you're...
She probably is, and she's probably going to be quite offended. So we're going to open
She's probably
these.
offended for me because every time you open something up, the first question out of my mouth is it organic?
Well, that's the first question out of her mouth,
Is it
too.
really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I bought some food this week that wasn't organic because I was hungry and they didn't have the organic stuff, so I took it home and cooked it, and she was very, very upset.
So how did Giant Eagle go last Monday?
Went really well. We
it?
did soups. Mm-hmm.
Which one did you make?
We made some soups from our cookbook, from the Good, the Bad, the Cookbook. So we did a French onion soup.
Ooh, I love
We
French
did
onions.
a pear and parsnip bisque.
Okay.
We did, let me think. I got to think about this. Oh, we did a white bean and mushroom. and we did our Creole chicken chili, the one that if you go to heraldstandard.com,
that
you can
really
see
good.
the video and read my column.
Now, one thing I realized, you mentioned it, and I love them. Parsnips is such
Yes.
an underrated vegetable.
Absolutely.
I love parsnips.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
And you can't always find them, which I think is interesting.
You can generally find them. They're not that difficult. You just have to look for them. That's the key.
Well, when my wife makes a roast, she puts parsnips
that's
around
great.
it, and it's great. And then occasionally, because it's great when you mash the potatoes and the parsnips together. I mean, that's wonderful.
Parsnips and sweet potatoes are like, oh.
I've never tried that one
Yeah,
before.
they're fantastic. We used to make them, and we talked about that before in
Yeah.
the past, where we would put them each in we'd make puree, a parsnip puree and a sweet potato puree. We'd put them each in their own piping bag and put both of those piping bags inside a giant piping bag. And then when you pipe it, it looks like a creamsicle.
That's right. We did talk about that.
Yeah, and that was great.
Everything
so
goes back to ice cream. You ever noticed that?
Yes.
Yep.
twisty cones. Can't beat them. So now we've got our
Pirates and catchers report when?
soon. I think it's like 3 weeks.
Yeah, something like that.
So we've got we added our tomato juice, and we added 2 cans of stewed tomatoes to our brown meat, and we're going to let this simmer. This generally simmers for 25 minutes at this point, okay? And once this is simmered for 25 minutes, we're going to add 6 cups of beef broth. And then it's going to simmer for an additional 45 minutes. Okay, you're going to bring that to a boil, cut the heat down, and let it simmer. So we're just going to let this kind of go right here. And Mike, can we kind of stay after a little bit so we can finish this here? No, I'm just kidding. We have something.
I'm sure George wouldn't have
I was
mind
going to
that.
say, this is George's request. George,
Yeah.
we're taking the first 15 minutes of your show just so we can have the soup.
And again, if anyone wants to call in and throw out their requests or tell us about Mary who called in earlier to tell us about the peppers she saw, which is really interesting.
Pepperfields, yes.
Yeah, the pepper fields. You can call us 724-438-4593 is the local number, and 855-590-0590 is toll free. Both numbers go to the same place, so just because you live in the local area, you can call the toll-free number if you so choose. And another thing I want to bring up really quickly while this comes up to a simmer, we have a lot going on Twitter.
Yes.
So make sure you follow us on Twitter, at Bill Alexander, at Mario Pareca, at Mike Sackley, at Just Cook It Radio. I tweeted a picture before the show started today, and maybe Mike will tweet one now.
He did. He tweeted about us starting the show before.
Excellent. So, yeah, follow us on Twitter. Get on Twitter. And we also got a nice tweet from Brandy.
Yes, I
who
saw
won
that this
the
week.
holiday prize
Right.
pack. So she received her prize pack and sent us some nice tweets. So thank you, Brandy. We appreciate that.
And we appreciate you listening. That's the
Absolutely.
big thing.
So we got our soup going, and another thing I want to talk about really quickly. Like I said, we're going to serve these in a pepper.
Right.
Okay, in a green pepper. You don't have to do that. You can just put it in a bowl and eat it if you like. There's peppers in the soup, so it's not like you're missing anything. I just think it's kind of cool to put inside a pepper because it is stuffed pepper soup. And what I simply did to the peppers, I used green peppers for this.
Okay.
Cut off the top and just shave the bottom just a little bit, just so it'll stand up without wobbling around and falling. And then you take a teaspoon and you just kind of scrape out the seeds
inside.
and the ribs just so it's clean inside. And then I had boiling salted water, and
Why
I
is that?
dropped it in there just to cook it, just to get it so it's like al dente, so you're not eating a raw pepper. So I dropped it in the boiling salted water about 3.5 minutes, 3.5 minutes, and then you go. If you're gonna eat it right away, you can pull it out of there, drain it, put your soup in, and eat it.
Right.
If you're gonna, you can certainly do this ahead of time. The peppers we have today, I blanched yesterday. And you take it right from the boiling water straight into ice water to shock it and stop the cooking process. And then you want to kind of dab it off with a paper towel to get excess moisture off, and then you can hold them in your fridge for a day.
Interesting.
So yeah, those can be done ahead of time, and they're kind of cool. I mean, when you serve them inside a pepper.
It completes that look, that ambiance.
Yeah.
And before we get done with everything, let's go take our last break, and then we'll come back.
Sure thing. We will be right back with more Just Cook It Radio and more. We're going to finish our soup. We're going to taste our soup, and we'll take your calls if you want to give us a buzz. So don't touch that radio dial. Just Cook It is served up to you today by the Big Barn Country Store and Deli, by Pareca Chiropractic Center Inc., by 4th Street Barbecue, and by the Herald Standard.
And you're watching Just Cook It on Fayette TV, Channel 77, and also at justcookit.tv. And you're listening to Just Cook It Radio on Blog Talk, Stitcher, Tuned In, Swell, and a lot of other places, and also on your local station, 590 Radio, WMBS.
Phil Giannetti Motors at 656 National Pike East in Brownsville is a proud sponsor of programming on FCTV. Phil G&A Motors, providing quality vehicles for 45 years. If you're looking for a quality pre-owned vehicle, give Phil G&A's a call at 724-785-6800 or stop by their website, philg&amotors.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to Just Cook It on your local station, 590 Radio, WMBS, and also on FCTV, Channel 77, and at justcookit.tv. I am Mario Parecka here with Bill Alexander and Mike Sackley.
And the magic of radio/TV, the pots change size again.
Ta-da! So, let me really quickly explain why this happens. Well, you see, as I mentioned, we have 25-minute simmer, 45-minute simmer. We just don't have the time to cook the whole dish here.
Well,
so
the thing is everybody should have watched. They've watched cooking shows on TV. You never have time for the whole thing.
Right.
You always have a second oven that you put everything in, and then you take it out. Well,
right.
Mario actually makes a pot that's sitting always next to me that's always done, or at least close to done, which is torture the first half of the program.
You can just smell it.
I can smell it. And then he's working on the other one to show the audience what to do and everything. And then we switch at that second break so we can do that. So that's why we're being honest.
Check this out. Now, when you're making this at home, like we said, there's always rice and peppers. So you can make rice. 2 cups of cooked rice will do the whole pot.
Right.
Okay, and you can add it in or whatever. Here's my trick. They make this brown rice in the freezer section. Now, this is why I like this. Okay,
I love
for this
bird's
soup.
eye. Yeah.
Let me just explain. If you put the rice in the soup all at once, okay, and obviously I'm not going to eat this whole pot of soup. My family's not going to eat this whole pot of soup. You have leftovers, you put it in the fridge. Tomorrow you come back to your soup. There's no broth left. The rice will absorb all the broth and swell up, and you'll have a rice dish, and you won't have soup. So you can either cook your rice, keep it off to the side, add it to each bowl individually, or B, what I like to do, I take my big pot, I heat up little batches as much as we're going to eat at a time, and I take this rice, which is already cooked and frozen, okay, you can buy in the freezer section of your store. This is whole grain brown rice, okay, and I love this stuff. And you just add, you heat up your little batch, and you just add this in. It takes 5 minutes to cook, game over.
Now, the other thing is making rice doesn't take that long either. So you can either do it or you can make the rice on the side, which I'm very good at making rice, just to let you know.
Excellent.
I can do that now. I was officially taught. Now, we had a caller off the air from Fairchance that listens to the program who said he can't cook an egg.
Hey, a lot of people can't. Eggs are hard to do.
But his wife's an excellent cook, and I wanted to give him a shot at Fred, right? Mike, that's who it was. So, Mike, thanks for listening. We appreciate it. And my repertoire of meals that I can cook now is increasing after the last year and a half of doing this. So.
And you can see, people get, I don't know, what would
that's
the
a lot
word
of rice.
Be? That's a pretty big pot.
Now, while you're stirring that in, and I'm thinking of it, why brown rice instead of white rice?
I like brown rice. It's a little better for you. It's whole grain.
Okay.
It's a little lower on the glycemic index, and it's, like I said, it's whole grain. It's not stripped of that outer layer with all the nutrients in it like a white rice. So I prefer brown. You feel free to use white.
Okay.
You can use any type of rice you really want. You can even use what I would really like in this would be wild rice.
Oh, that'd be good.
Wild rice would be excellent, like a wild rice white rice mix or wild rice brown rice mix would be excellent. You can use orzo in this. Whatever you
I finally figured out what orzo was after a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
so
we like orzo.
So and I actually found it in the grocery store too. I was really impressed.
Imagine that.
I was really impressed with myself. I'm going, I know what that's for.
I found this food at the grocery store. It was the weirdest thing. But so we added our rice, and you'll see how this cooks pretty quickly. So that's what we want. And like I said, the frozen stuff is fine. I mean, it's quick, it's easy, and I don't notice a big difference between it and actually cooking it.
Right.
Unless, now if I'm cooking the rice to add to this, I may cook it in beef broth. I may take some of the broth from here and cook it in that, and then just to add extra flavor. But I think that this works really well. this way. So we just added our rice, and now we basically have all the components of a stuffed pepper in a soup.
In a soup. The only difference is they're the broth.
Right. We got the peppers, we got the tomatoes, we got the beef, and some other extra meat. We got our rice. So
it smells wonderful.
Yeah, and we're going to serve some up here in just a minute.
I'm surprised it smells so good that Von Benko's not in here yet.
Yeah, where is George?
I have no idea. Where's George?
We made this
at?
for him. George, if you're here, come on in.
Yeah, so I'm waiting for the door to fly
He's waiting
open.
outside the door with his ear on the door. His nose on the door trying to smell it.
Smell it through.
So, our soup's just about done.
Okay.
And as you can see, I'm going to show the camera here and talk about it.
Oh, there he is.
George. We have our peppers here that I cooked.
Yeah.
And these have been, so you can see how I cut the top off. And if you look at the bottom, I just shaved the bottom so it'll stand.
Right.
That's the only reason. You don't want to take too much off because you don't want to put a hole in the bottom. So you can kind of see that. And then it kind of stands right in the bowl, and the soup will kind of fill it up. So George is here. Hey, George. Jump behind the microphone. Say hi.
Well, there's one right here.
Yeah.
Here. Give him that one right there.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for making the soup. I have several other suggestions. In fact, why don't you just move in and you can just cook with it?
Hey, cooking with sports. There you go. We could do
that.
That's an idea.
Actually, a lot of the players, believe it or not, Travis Snyder's a tremendous barbecue guy.
I've heard that.
Yeah, there's quite a few of them that like to cook.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We might have to hook something up there.
I think that's a clever idea. I really do. Anyway, we have a caller on the line right now, Kevin from Masontown. Kevin, how are you doing this morning?
Hey, okay. Nice to talk to you folks again. I was listening to your making the soup, and it sounds excellent.
It smells wonderful.
I'm actually going to try that.
Oh, cool. Just go to the website, justcookit.net, and you'll be able to find the recipe.
Okay, well, I've been trying to scratch things down as you've been going.
Oh, okay.
Well, let me recap for you what we did. And you can kind of check your notes if you want. We started out in our pan, about 2 tablespoons of olive oil.
Yes.
Onion, 1 medium onion, medium dice. Red pepper, yellow bell pepper. About 2 teaspoons of minced garlic.
Okay.
A bay leaf.
Yes.
Sweat all that down.
Yep.
Then we have a pound of ground beef, half a pound of ground veal, half a pound of ground pork.
Okay. I missed one of those. Okay.
We browned that. We added a teaspoon of thyme, oregano, and basil.
Yes.
All dried. Seasoned a little salt and pepper. Then once that's all browned up, we added our a cup of tomato juice and 2 cans of stewed tomatoes.
Yes.
Simmer that for 25 minutes. Then we added 6 cups of beef broth.
Okay.
Simmer that for another 45 minutes. Bring it up to a boil. Reduce the heat down to a simmer. Simmer that for 45 minutes. Re-season it. Add your rice. You're good to go.
Okay. Now, your beef broth, do you like the bouillon cubes to make your broth?
I don't prefer them. I prefer the actual broth itself. If you want to enhance the flavor with some bouillon cubes, feel free to do that. But
is it okay if you do not have your own beef broth?
Yeah, you can certainly do that. It's better than just using water, put it that way.
Exactly.
So that's your next best option. But if at the supermarket, you can buy beef broth.
Oh, okay. I've never really.
If you look in the soup section, they're usually in cartons. And
yes. Yeah, now
I'll actually show the camera.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, hey, listen. Thank you. Nice to talk to you guys.
All right, you too. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Have
Kevin.
a wonderful day.
Talk to you
too.
later.
Bye-bye.
So I'm going to fill this pepper with our soup. As you can see, it holds it quite nicely.
Yeah, it does.
And it's an edible bowl. It's an edible garnish.
I was kind of worried it was going to leak everywhere, but
now that's why I showed you how I cut the bottom
off.
And if it pours over the sides, that's okay. And I'm going to give this one to George since this is his recipe. And there's spoons right below you.
I was going to say we brought silverware this week.
Plasticware every week. We should have our own line of plasticware.
There you go.
So we're just going to fill these up.
What do you think? Is it good?
Yes, very good.
Excellent. Thank you. Bill?
Hand that one over to Mike.
So, we're going to do another soup next week.
Yeah.
We don't know what yet.
I'm liking the sweet potato and jalapeno.
Sweet potato and jalapeno. I'll definitely look into that and give it some thought.
And there was another one that crossed my mind too, and I can't remember what it was. We were talking about it, and I forget what it was right now. You made it last week. You made it, Giant Eagle.
Onion soup?
Yeah, the French onion soup.
Yeah, we can do French onion. French onion is one of my favorites.
Now, what cheese do you put on top of your French
Gruyere.
onion? Gruyere?
Mm-hmm. That's the proper cheese for a French onion soup. A lot of places will use provolone.
Right.
But Gruyere is the proper cheese to use.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. So, this is very simple. Looks nice. It's great for a dinner party.
Oh, that looks good.
Yeah? Tastes like stuffed pepper, huh?
And it's great on a cold day like this.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
This is perfect food for a cold day like today. What do you think, Mike?
Oh, I'm not complaining.
Mike usually he's talkative through the show. Mike pays a lot. He pays close attention, but then when it's time to eat, he's just consumed.
I like the way the meat's seasoned and
Yes.
the way the three meats complement themselves. It's
Yes.
actually a very good mixture.
Yeah, they all have their different jobs.
Yeah.
Like I said, the beef is just a traditional. You can't have it without beef. It's got that the beef flavor. The pork adds some richness to it.
Yeah.
Because it's a little fattier, and then the veal adds some tenderness and lightness because it's a more tender, lighter
Right.
meat. So, and like I said, when I make meatballs, that's pretty close to the same ratio that I'll use for meatballs. So the veal, pork, and beef.
This is wonderful.
I think so. Stuffed pepper in soup form.
Yeah. So is this what you were expecting, George?
Yes, exactly.
Is it?
Yeah. There used to be a place in Cincinnati when I was doing the Cincinnati games.
Okay.
And it was a guy from Pittsburgh, and it was Mario's, was right near the campus, and they used to have stuffed pepper soup every day.
Oh, great.
And I used to go in there just to get the, Huggins and I would go and get the stuffed pepper soup.
There you go. So now we have it, and you can get the recipe again at justcookit.net. So if you go to the website, it's already posted. You can get the recipe, and you'll be able to listen to this broadcast again there later today.
And then the video version of the program will be up on online sometime on Monday, if not Tuesday morning.
Yes.
Because then we air Tuesday night at 8:30 on Fayette TV, Channel 77. And we are on Tuesdays and Sundays, so you can watch us make it.
Yeah, and you can get all the videos, all of our videos from past recipes at justcookit.tv.
Right.
So if you go to that website, all our videos are there listed.
Yeah, and we're talking about doing a possible cooking audio CD.
That's a possibility.
In the future, so one of these recipes may actually be on that.
Audio cookbook.
Clever idea.
You're going to put some music cuts in between, like a little Metallica or something like that?
AC/DC. So this we got a full. It seems like the more we do this, the more we cook, the more people we draw to the studio. That's good.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Absolutely, this is a lot of fun.
Food is a common denominator for everybody.
Yes, it's a social gather. It's a social thing. It brings people together, and it's fun. And I want to thank George. And one of the reasons I wanted to make the soup for him today, he's been so patient with us.
Yes.
Every week, because after our show's over, George comes in to set up for his show, and we have to clean up and get all this food and everything out of here. And he's just been absolutely a true professional.
However, he keeps telling us we need to talk to Brian to get our own kitchen studio built. So we're waiting to see if that happens or not.
Brian, are you listening?
I wouldn't hold my breath, guys.
There's a lot of home builders out there and kitchen stores that would be more.
That's one way to
there
approach
you go.
it.
Yeah, good way to get a name out there.
The official studio of somebody. There we go.
That's right. The official
What-
insert your name
name
here
here
studio.
studio.
Yeah, so we'll definitely explore that option as we move forward. But I want to just reiterate to everyone, as we only have a few minutes left, make sure you follow us on Twitter for the year of the Twitter. We're at Just Cook It Radio is the show's feed, and then we have our own at Mario Pareca, at Bill Alexander, at Mike Sackley. George, are you on Twitter yet?
I do a little bit, but not a lot.
What is yours? Are you at George?
George, just type in George Von Benko and
Okay.
come up, and
You'll
you'll
find
see an old picture of me back in the day in the old WTAE studios when I used to be with Myron and Stan. Yeah.
So you can get us all there on Twitter. And we have been tweeting, so make sure you follow us there. Make sure you check us out on our website. You can get all our Twitter handles, everything directly from our website, which is justcookit.net. So make sure you head over there, get today's recipe, get the recipes that we've done in the past. The video will be up soon. The podcast version of this will be up soon. So there's a whole slew of information on there that you can get at justcookit.net. Any parting thoughts, Bill?
No, again, looking forward to next Saturday's soup.
Yeah.
And hopefully that you guys that are listening to the program, not only in the local area on the radio, but also listening on the podcast and watching us, send us suggestions. Email us.
Absolutely.
Info at justcookit or Bill at justcookit.net and Mario at justcookit.net, and get the information to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Send us all your info or your recommendations, recipes, whatever it is that you want us to talk about or make, and we'll be more than happy to explore those options. Thank you for listening. We will be back next Saturday with another recipe and another soup right here on Just Cook It Radio on your local station, 590 Radio, WMBS.
Thanks for listening to Just Cook It Radio with Mario Pareca and Bill Alexander. For more information on today's program, visit the Just Cook It website at justcookit.net. Here, you can listen to the podcast or watch Mario and Bill cook today's recipe on Just Cook It TV. If you have any questions or comments about the show, please call 855-590-0590.